would be really nice. Um, it's a long session, it has a lot of information. I'm going to try to make it as engaging as possible, but I do ask you to pay attention. You can ask me your questions at the end. There's a Q&A functionality at the top. You can just click on it and put your questions as we go along. If you just want to interact or type something in the chat, you can use the chat feature at the top. I will share the slides at the end of the session, so if you registered, I will share the slides with you, and I will also post them on LinkedIn after the session. So if you want the slides right away, all you have to do is follow me on LinkedIn if you're not following me already, and I will post the slides after the session. So don't feel like you have to take any notes. Everything will be shared. Just pay attention and leave with the intention of learning something new. So the title of the session today is No More UN Secrets, a guide for applying to entry-level United Nations jobs. This webinar is part of a 4-series webinar that I will be doing in July and August. I will tell you more about them as we go along. Most people have registered for multiple sessions. But yeah, I hope you enjoy the session today, and I do get to see you in the forthcoming sessions. You guys can see my screen, right? Somebody give me a heart or a thumbs up. Just confirm you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see it, Rawan.
Okay, perfect. So before we start, if you're here right now, if you're in the chat, I would like you to introduce yourself in the chat in a way that you've never introduced yourself before. So don't say, for example, my name is Rawan and I'm a volunteer with the British Council, or my job is XYZ at X organization. No, introduce yourself in a way that you've never introduced yourself before. So I chose I'm Rawan and I'm fascinated by twins and triplets. I really am. Whenever I see twins and triplets, I just stop and stare. I get the science behind it, but I just think it's such a magical thing for their, especially when they're identical. I'm even more fascinated. So just type in the chat, introduce yourself. Somebody said I'm a wizard. I wonder what that means. So normally the things that you think are really weird about you, really quirky, that's what helps you click with others, because often you think you're the weirdest one in the room, but somebody else has the same quirk. So feel free to say something that you find special about yourself. Just a few words. You guys wake up. Crazy traveler. Okay, Ines. Come on, guys. Yeah, and I love cooking. Yummy. I create magic, audio, video, or written. Wow. Okay, I'm jealous. Ahmed, a professional overthinker. I love it. Ice cream lover. I also love it. Although it's very cold where I am right now, so no ice cream for me. Football. Okay. A realistic dreamer. Hiba, an overthinker. Two overthinkers. There's another overthinker. You guys can connect. I like Donald Duck. I thought it was the other Donald. I was going to ask you to leave. And blue color. I'm Sarah and I enjoy flying with no limitation. I love it. I'm joking there. Okay, awesome guys. So you see when you say the things that are unique about you, it helps others to connect. I'm Sarah and I enjoy flying. Okay, a lot of people who enjoy flying. Okay, so thank you guys for introducing yourselves. If you can open your camera as well, that would be really nice. So career session highlights. So today the session is divided into 4 parts. It's a long session, so bear with me. If you guys are completely spacing out and you need a little bit of a break, let me know. But I will try to go as much information as possible so that you leave the session feeling ready to apply for a UN job. So the session is divided into 4 parts. The first part is an introduction about working for the UN and some key websites that I will go through. If you are already working for the UN or you've worked for the UN before, or you are somewhat in the middle of your career, especially if you work in development or international organizations, you may find this information similar. It will be more refreshing for people who have no idea what the application process is. And then part two is what would you like to do at the UN? So I will tell you about the different job types and the different employment categories. Part three is where would you like to work? I will tell you about the different organizations, at least the common ones, and the different duty stations, the national and the international ones. And then the last part, we will talk about different entry pathways to the UN, and I will give you some resources. So I told you guys I like twins and triplets, but why I'm here today, that's not why I'm here today. I'm here today because I volunteer with the British Council. So I am their volunteer ambassador for the United Nations SDG number 8, which is decent work and economic growth. There's 17 SDGs. I think there's ambassadors for about 5 of them, and I'm one of the ambassadors for SDG number 8. I've authored a book on employment called No More Job Secrets. I currently work for the United Nations World Food Program. I'm based in Namibia and I do monitoring and reporting. I've previously worked with CRS, the Catholic Relief Services, in Senegal and in Malawi. Before that, I was working with the United Nations Development Program in Zambia. I am a graduate of Swansea University. I graduated in 2018, and I also studied in Ain Shams University in Egypt. I graduated in 2014. So it's been a while since I've been in academia. Oh, and this picture, I love this picture so much. This picture was taken at the Going Global conference a couple of months ago in Nigeria, and it was a really an amazing education conference. I enjoyed it so much. Okay, so before we start, we're gonna play a bit. So it's couple of a couple of questions that you can, um, if you've never used Slido before, you can tune in. You can tune in or join the game in a couple of ways. So you can either take a picture of the QR code or go to slido.com and type in this number 2921 463. I'm also going to put the link in the chat. So you guys can join. I'm also going to start the. Yes, I can. 2921. I'm going to copy it. 2921 463. I can see a few people have already joined in. Okay, so far 9 people have voted. So if you just joined in, you can go to slido.com and type in 2921463. We're going to do a little quiz first before starting with the slides. So this was the first question. What does the United Nations do? And everybody has answered correctly. The answer is provides aid, to developing country and maintains international peace and security. So if you answered correctly, you're in the right room. Now you can go to the next question. What is your dream UN job? You can give me a title and an agency. As well as it doesn't have to be very specific. But for example, if you dream of working at UNICEF or the World Bank or WFP, you can just let me know and what title it is you're looking for. Finance, procurement, a program officer, education officer, whatever it is, just type it in. Very specific, health systems specialist at the WHO. I love it. Project manager at UNICEF. I love it. Data analyst, data scientist, AI. If you're an AI developer and you're based in Egypt, I'm looking for one, so please contact me. Economic analyst at the World Bank. Very specific. I love it. Monitoring and evaluation analyst. Great. Security Council. Children's books. What do you mean by that? Gender equality advisor. Amazing. Very specific. WHO in the field of cancer. Again, amazing. Very specific. You guys can see, right? The answers coming in. Okay, great. Somebody said legal, Fedi, okay. Legal counselor, okay, very specific. Fedi specified the agency as well. One more person is typing and then we can go to the final slide. Amazing. I love that you're very specific. All right, cool. And then the last question, what do you hope to learn from this session today? It's a long presentation, but if you let me know, and I only have 1 hour, so if you let me know, then I can tailor the presentation as much as possible to your questions and your needs. How to get a job at the UN, how to get a P1 contract with the UN. We're going to talk about P1s, but as you know, they're not very common. Successful application, okay. A good preparation to get a job at the UN, okay. The different roles, okay. Is it possible to find part-time jobs? They're not very common, but maybe. How to put keywords in your bio to be considered. How to write the application, what they expect during the hiring process. How to accept and make a difference in the UN. It's great that you want to make a difference. How to find opportunities and make my application stand out. How to tailor my CV and be considered. Is it a fair process? We will talk about that as well without needing a UN employee's recommendation. Want to have a bigger impact? Okay, well, we're going to wait for the last two people. Are all candidates put on a roster to get jobs within the 2 years at WFP? No, that's not true. Okay, Um, all right. Thank you guys so much for participating and for your excellent answers. So we're going to start talking about the different parts of a UN application. So this is the first part, the yellow section or the first section, and then there's second section, third section, and fourth section, just in case you take a break or you come back, just so that you know where we are. So we are in the first part of the presentation. So what is the UN? All of you, 100% of you voted correctly. The UN is the world's largest universal multilateral organization. It works on promoting justice, equality, and development. Many young people want to work in the UN, but when you ask them, what role do you want to do exactly? They have no idea. So it helps if you know exactly what you want. It helps you to be marketable. It helps you to put job alerts. It helps you to apply and to stand out. I'm not 100% sure about this number, but the UN has offices in 193 countries. It is estimated that the staff number is about 37,000. Different sources have different numbers, but this is an estimate. So even if the number is not 100% accurate, what you should know is that there is many employees. So these 37,000 employees must be doing something. There's different opportunities available for people with all different backgrounds. The jobs are classified into different networks and different families, which we're going to talk about more today. So why should you care? Um, If you're here today, many people are here because they want other career opportunities. They're looking for consultancies or internships. Other people may not be directly looking for jobs at the UN, but they do want to, a few people mentioned impact. So if you do want to make impact in your field, whether you're working in another international organization or in academia or the private sector, knowing what the UN does will help you to have a global impact through knowing the most recent developments, what's happening in the field, what different projects are, and so forth. Learning diplomacy as well, if you want to enter the field of diplomacy, if you want to be a diplomat, understanding how the UN works, the systems thinking part of it may help you as well uh, if you want to enter the diplomatic space, and being an informed citizen. So this is roughly why you should care. And if you fall into one of these categories, then you're in the right space. There's many different websites to apply for a UN job. Um, these are some of the key ones: careers.un.org, unjobnet.org, and unjobs.org. I will share the presentation again, so don't worry about writing anything. I will do a demo today on the official UN job application website, careers.un.org. Personally, I quite like this one, UNJobnet. It's very easy for me to search for P1s, P2s. I use it as well when I'm posting jobs on LinkedIn or on social media. This is the one that I use to search for jobs. It's very easy to look for jobs on it. There's also this one, unjobs.org. And then there's social media and networking. Recently, I've been seeing great posts on the social media. If you follow different people working at the UN or different recruiters or people like myself, even on LinkedIn, they call them job fairies or job influencers, you will find a lot of great opportunities. So these are some of the key sites. Remember to always apply through an official site. The UN will never ask you for money or anything like that. So the first part of the presentation is what would you like to do? So in order for you to apply, regardless of which site you're using, you need to know what job you want to apply for. So I'm going to go quickly to the first platform, which is careers.un.org. So this is what the platform looks like. One second, let me just expand this. All right, it's not letting me open it 100% full screen, but I think it's okay. You guys can see. So this is what the platform looks like. The official platform, careers.un.org. And the first thing it asks you is search by location or search by expertise, okay? So first, if you click on apply now, there's a couple of things the platform will ask you. And this is what we're going to talk about today. Because if you don't know what it is that you would like to do, if you don't know, for example, the person that said, I want to be a health systems specialist at the WHO, if you don't know what job it is that you want to apply for, which agency it is that you want to apply for, if you don't know what the different categories are, you don't understand the difference, if you don't understand the level, then you're setting yourself up for failure because you're not applying in the correct category. I think it took me about 200 applications until I got my first UN job with UNDP. And when I was looking at my previous applications or my failed applications, I can show you guys if I can find the document. Let me try to see if I have the document open somewhere. I want to show you my mistakes so that you can see what I'm talking about. So, one second. Oops, 1 second. I'll show you guys in a second. I'm not able to share my other screen. But for example, one of the mistakes that I was making was that I was applying for national jobs in countries that I'm not a national of. For example, I was applying for national jobs in Ethiopia. Am I Ethiopian? No. So that's an automatic rejection. So although maybe I applied for 200 jobs, I was probably eligible for only 30, 40 of these. The rest was an automatic rejection, although I didn't know at the time because I didn't understand the differences between those categories. So the first thing is, what would you like to do? You need to be able to answer this question at least in your head. There's 9 job networks. So regardless of what field it is that you work in or what it is that you want to do, you must fit in one of these 9 job networks, and we're going to talk more about them in a second. And then there's 45 job families. You can't open the job family without selecting the network because the family is related to the network. So each family, a family is a group of people that are related to each other somehow, right? So the network, once you select the network, somebody said they wanted to work as a legal counselor. So if you select legal, then you can open the different legal the legal families. So for example, let's say I want to work in legal affairs, like Fadi said in the chat. And then there's the categories. Does he want to work? Fadi, maybe tell me in the chat, do you want to work, uh, where are you from? Do you want to work in your country or do you want to work internationally? Just type in the chat. Or what type of contract are you aiming for? A long-term one, a short-term one? Internationally. Okay, so Fedi wants to work internationally. How many years of experience that you have? Long-term, you can just type in the chat as well. If anybody else wants to say what type of job they're applying for, we can try their profile as well. So more than 20 years. Okay, so Fedi wants to work internationally. He has more than 20 years of experience. Looking at these categories quickly, some things are national, some are international. For example, some are both, okay? But general service, these are national contracts. If he clicks on these, and let's say he's from Egypt, that means he will be searching for jobs in Egypt, okay? The duty station should be Egypt. Field national professional officers, national, it means that you are a national of that country. If he wants to work internationally, then he should click here, professional and higher categories. So we're just going to do a quick search with this criteria. I'm not going to narrow it down any further. Let's see what we can find. So for example, there's this job. I'm just going to click on it and we can see the application process together. So let's say Fezi wants to apply for a role. A P3 means he has, I think, about 5 to 6, 6 to 7 years of experience and so forth. This is the minimum. So normally people with P3s, P4s have much more experience than that because it's a job at the international level and it's quite competitive. So I'm going to click on this job. Let's say Fedi wants to apply for something and he wants to apply for this job. It's a P3, means it's a professional level. At the third category, it is based in New York. It's an international job. Okay, that means he can apply for it. There's different jobs in other duty stations as well. So there's one in Addis Ababa, there's one in Nairobi. Which one do you want me to click on, Vedi? You can just choose one, and I'll do a quick demo on it. So there's two in New York. I'm just telling you, I'm gonna do a demo so you can say which one of these jobs on the screen right now would you want to apply for. There's legal affairs, senior legal officer in Central Africa in Bangi, legal officer in Nairobi, and there is also one in Addis Ababa. Okay, I'm just gonna click on a random one. I'm just gonna click on this one. So let's say Fedi wants to apply for this job, okay? So he's gonna look here at the responsibilities, check that he matches the job description that they're looking for. He's gonna check the competencies. He's gonna check the education. He said he has 20 years of experience. Over here, they require a master's degree or equivalent. Um, so jobs at the international level, the P jobs and the D jobs, they almost always require a master's degree. So if you want to work internationally, you should start there by getting a master's degree. This is often the main prerequisite for you to apply. Work experience, a minimum of 5 years of experience because this is a P3. Languages, for this position, fluency in English or French is required, and the other one is desirable. So you have to pay attention to the language. Over here, for this position, it's English or French, and the other one is desirable. In some positions, they tell you you must know both. So I already have a profile on the Human Resources Gateway. It's called Inspira. If you do not have a profile, you will have to create one. The profile is simply your educational information, your personal information, um, your language skills, and so forth. If you don't have a profile, you will need to create one. I'm just going to tell you briefly what the application entails. So there's 7 steps. The job requirements, the education, the experience, the motivation statement, other information. I'll show you quickly, and then we're going to talk more in detail about those steps. So it asks you, you can't go on without this, but it asks you, how did you find out about this job? I'm just going to click anything, like I found out about it through Facebook. And then it tells me, it's not very common, Hagar. Sometimes we can go back to the job description and see it, but it's not very common for somebody to be hired at the international level without a master's degree, unless they have very specialized technical skills that are needed. But because the competition is so fierce, they mostly require a master's degree, but not for all jobs. So for these questions, this is the welcome and then the job requirements. The second stage is the job requirements. Over here, filling these questions is extremely important. We're going to talk in a second about how to fill these answers. But over here, it tells you, for example, you need to have a minimum of 5 years of experience, and you need to give examples. If you click over here that you do not meet this criteria, or you write something like, please check my application, or you do not demonstrate how you meet this criteria, your application will most probably get automatically rejected because this is the bare minimum for this job. It's a P3. You need to have 5 to 7 years of experience. If you say, I do not have this, you're already automatically rejected. A minimum of 2 years as an advocate, a litigator, you need to demonstrate how you meet this criteria. Experience working in international organizations, 2 or more years of analytics, and so forth. We're going to talk about how to answer these questions. There's also a video saying how to respond if you want to go and watch it later. But I'll tell you some tips on how to answer these questions. Education and languages, again, for this specific post, yes, safe. The recording will be shared afterwards. So for this specific post, we read the criteria and they were saying you need to be fluent in English or French. Fluency in the other language is desirable. So for example, let's say you're applying for a job um, in a French-speaking country. Let's say you're applying for a job in Congo, DRC, and they need you to be fluent in French. Again, if you're not, you're setting up yourself for an automatic rejection. So pay attention to the job criteria. Experience and references when you fill out your profile. So you need to fill out a profile before proceeding to this Inspira gateway. When you fill in your profile, put in your experience. Again, things have to match. So in the previous question, if you said, I have 2 years of experience working in an international organization, and you come in here and you don't have any international experience, automatically it shows a disconnection. Your application is not cohesive, and you may get rejected again at this stage. So things need to add up. Your motivation statement. This one is super, super short. It's only 2,000 characters. You can use it to say what motivates you and anything else you haven't covered for the application. And then you can upload a couple of documents, your CV, your certificates, your passport. There's some guidance on what you can upload as well. So I think you can upload an academic certificate, your ID, reference letters, and so forth. And then you can review and submit. So this is a very quick overview. The application process is not hard, but you do have to pay attention. So there's 4 key steps in the application. You need to register on Inspira um, if you're applying on careers.un.org. You need to register first. You need to create a profile, your name, your nationality, your contact. This information is very important because if you're saying, for example, um, I am Indian, and then you're applying for national officer roles in Nepal, you will automatically get rejected. So your application information needs to be correct because things like your nationality determine whether you're eligible or not for the national roles or the international roles. The application form is where you're going to include your education, your past experiences, your skills, and so forth. Do not leave it until the last minute, and then your motivation statement, where you explain why you're the best candidate for the role. If you watch the video that I told you about, it gives you some examples of good responses and bad responses. So for example, in the question that said, do you have 7 years of experience working in human resource management or working in litigation? Yes, I will explain that. So do you have 7 years of experience? Ideally, you should write yes. If it's a no, it's an automatic rejection. So put yes, the dates, the agency, and then explain how you obtained this experience or what it is that you were doing. So you need to provide details. Okay, so for example, yes, from 2016 to 2019, I worked with Save the Children. And then explain your roles. Your experience needs to be specific. So for example, do you have supervisory experience? It's not enough to say, yes, I managed 3 people. You need to say what it is that you were doing. You need to quantify as much as possible, show your impact, show that you have results. So saying I was working as a transport manager is vague. It doesn't show that you had an impact. But if you say, I supervised a team of 20 drivers and 10 workshop technicians, it is even stronger if you say the result. You could say which led to no safety concerns being raised or a decrease in accidents or whatever it is that the result was. Saved an amount of fuel by better coordination, something like that. If you know the results, it's even stronger. If you do not know how to put results on your application, this will be the 3rd session. Sometime in the first 2 weeks of August, I don't remember, but there's going to be a session on achievement-oriented CVs and adding results to your applications. If you don't know how to do this, you can attend then. So when you're searching for a UN job, the first thing is the job network and the job family. The job networks, there's 9 job networks. Depending on what it is that you want to do, you can look through the networks. And then check what fits your application the most. So for example, there's the development network if you're applying for development jobs. Info network, if you're applying for public information jobs. So let's say you're a journalist. iTech network, if you're applying for tech jobs or IT jobs. There's the legal network, the one that we were looking at right now, if you're applying for jobs in the legal sphere. Logistics network, if you're applying for logistics, transport, supply chain, procurement, all of these fall under logistics. The management network, the political network, political, peace, and humanitarian work, safety network, and then science network for the people that were saying they want to work in the medical sphere. So each network has different job families, and then you can see the job families here depending on what it is that you're applying for. So for example, let's say you are interested in logistics, or you're interested in engineering, facilities management. All these fall under the logistics network. So you can set an alert for this network. For example, if you want to see new roles that open there. Some job titles that you may recognize. A lot of people are not aware that there's networks and families, but they recognize the job titles. So for example, if you're working in administration, you may be working in this network. Magnet, you may be an HR specialist or a finance officer. Or if you're working in the SciNet, the scientific network, epidemiologists, health program officers. So a lot of people are familiar with the job titles, but they're not familiar with the job networks and the job family. Um, Hagad is asking, do you know what it means when your application is marked under consideration for a month? I'm not exactly sure of the HR terminology. I've seen it a couple of times. Sometimes it means the position is still open, they're still doing selection. Um, I'm not sure if it's possible that they recruited somebody else. If they recruited somebody else, most of the time, it will show on your end that you're rejected. So sometimes it may just mean that the application is still open or they haven't selected somebody. How long does it take for them to respond to an application? I'll tell you briefly the recruitment timelines in a few slides. So after you've selected the job network and the job family, you need to select the category and the level. So the category is things like the professional level, the general level, the national level. And then the level is, depending on your years of experience, the level. So Daya is asking, can you please illustrate the difference of the jobs? Yes. So there's different categories of the jobs, depending on what you would like to do, and how flexible you are with where you want to go. Um, for me, I would advise you, especially if you're at the beginning of your career, don't limit your options. Try to apply for whatever jobs you are eligible for. So there is the staff contracts. These are longer term contracts. And then there's other employment contracts. These are often shorter term contracts. The staff contracts, very senior appointments like the Secretary General of the UN. There's the director level appointments, directors of large organizations. Also, this is a very senior level. There's the professional level. The professional levels like the P1, the P2, the P3, the P3. This means you are working outside of the country that you are from. And the positions start with the letter P. P and then a number. The higher the number means the greater the years of experience. So P1 means you have 0 to 2 years of experience. Very rare positions to be advertised, but they're there. And then P2, not very common as well. P3 is more common, P4, and then P5. And in some organizations like WHO, it even goes up to P6 and P7. National professional officers. So if you want to work in your own country, so for example, you are, um, let's say you are from Russia and you want to apply in Russia, then you will be looking for national officer positions. The NO positions are followed by a letter NOA, NOB, NOC. The higher the letter means the more experience you will need for that position. General services are also national positions. And then there's field services based in a field office. And then there's other employment categories, temporary appointments. Most of the time, these are also national appointments. In different organizations, they're called different things. but temporary appointments are often shorter term appointments with less benefits. There are consultants and contractors. We will talk also about these. Um, Service contract holders, these are national positions. Junior professional officers, JPOs, these are open for some countries. Unfortunately, at the moment, Egypt is not a JPO country if you are Egyptian, since most of the audience is. United Nations volunteers, I'll tell you briefly how you can apply for those, and then fellows and interns. Fellows are sort of training programs, not very frequently advertised as well, but they are great opportunities. I joined the UN on a fellowship a few years ago, and then internships. What is the difference between some common contract types? There's fixed term appointments. These are typically 1 to 2 years. They're renewable. They offer a good job security and benefits. There's temporary appointments. They're short term, less than 1 year, less benefits. Service contracts, you are often hired to do a service, no entitlement to benefits. There is individual contractors, usually for consultancy tasks, and then there's internships or volunteers that are learning opportunities. So if you're confused, this is a quick mind map for you to find out what job you should be applying for. So if you're looking for a longer term contract, and let's say you want to work internationally, if you have a lot of experience, you can go for the director level. If not, you can check the P level. So international and long-term duration, professional level or director level, P or D, that's what they're called. If you're looking for um, a longer duration at the national level, then you can check the national officer roles or the G roles, NO or G. If you're more flexible, and I strongly advise you to be more flexible, don't limit yourself to a certain contract type, you can check if you want to work internationally. You can check the junior professional officers if you are from a country that JPO positions are available. You can check the international volunteers. I will talk to you in a second how you can apply to be a volunteer. And many people think that being an international volunteer or a volunteer in general is unpaid. That is not fully correct. I'll tell you how you can apply for a paid volunteering position. And then there's fellows and consultants. If you want to work in your own country nationally, but you're open to shorter term durations, you can also check national consultancies. You can check SSA or service contracts. So this is a quick guide to help you understand the type of role that you should be looking for. Okay. So the difference between these roles. So let's say, for example, can somebody else tell me the type of job that they're looking for in the chat based on what I just explained? So tell me I'm looking for a role data. Okay. I'll get more specific. Which level? Which category? Isara said she's looking for a director role. Which level? Which category? Which agency? National officer. I don't think I'm doing a good job. The answers are still very vague. Give me a full sentence. Mariam, national officer at which level? In which category? In which agency? International? At the World Bank or WHO. Okay, so Hagar is saying she wants to work at the international level. Okay, so just have this at the back of your mind. International means most probably you will be looking at the P level or the D level. The director level is somebody that has many, many years of experience, like I said. So we'll talk about that in a second. For somebody like Hagar, she's saying, or somebody like Muhammad in the chat right now, at the professional level, these are the keywords you should be searching for. No work experience, or let's say 0 to 2 years of experience, you should be looking for P1s. If you have a minimum of 2 years, P2. P3 is what we looked at in a little while ago, minimum of 5 years of work experience. If you have 4 years of experience, 7 years of experience or so, you can be looking at P4s. And then A P5 is a minimum of 10 years of work experience. As I said, in other organizations, it can go up to P6 or P7. We'll talk about the consultancies in a second, just hold on. Director level, somebody like Aysad is saying she's looking for a director role at the international level. So international, she's looking for a director level job, a D1, minimum of 15 years of work experience, a D2, more than 15 years of work experience. Let's say you want to work in your own country, you can look at national postings. National postings, the general level, the G level. Over here, you need to have only completed a secondary, a high school degree, and then they go from G1 to G7. If you want to work as a national officer in your country, the national officer jobs are at a higher scale or a higher pay grade than the general level, and they're normally more technical roles. They're specialized roles at the country level. So for example, you are, let's say, Tunisian, and you want to work in Tunisia, and you have technical expertise as a health officer, then you can be looking at an NOC or an NOB, something like that. There's also service contracts. These are also national levels. So to summarize, international postings, P or D, the higher the number, followed by the letter, the higher the role. So P1 is lower than a P2 and so forth. Director level, D1 or D2, very senior managerial positions. Then there's the general level and the national officer level. These are national postings. The national officer level is at a higher ranking, let's say, than the general staff category. Key search terms, if you are, normally I do these webinars for entry-level professionals. So if you are an entry-level professional, you just graduated from university or you started applying for jobs, these are the key search terms that you should be looking for. P1 or P2 internationally, NOA, NOB nationally, junior consultant or consultant 1, I'll tell you more about these in a second, interns, fellows, volunteers, JPOs, YPP. JPOs are junior professional officers and YPPs are young professionals programs. These are always open to certain countries, certain nationalities every year. This changes a bit. For now, Egypt is not a part of these two programs, but you can check your country on the websites of the JPOs or the YPP. Timelines. Uh, I'll answer Hagar's question in a sec. So timelines, I don't remember who's asking about the timelines. So normally recruitment takes a long time at the UN. If it's very, very, very quick, let's say an emergency post or a position needs to be filled very quickly, it takes 1 to 2 months. On average, recruitment takes 6 to 12 months. And lengthy, if you are on a roster, it can take 18 to 24 months. So recruitment, to answer your question, takes a very long time. It greatly, greatly varies based on the need of the post and the need to fill the position and the importance of the post and so on. But so as a general rule, recruitment, let's say, on average, takes 6 to 12 months. So what can you do with this information so far? Using this information, let's say you know you are targeting the P level or the NO level. You can create job alerts. You can network with people working in these jobs. You can update your LinkedIn, your CV, and your cover letter with keywords from these advertisements or keywords from these jobs. You can inform others the exact types of opportunities that you're searching for. So for example, if somebody tells me, I am looking for a position as a children's book illustrator, like one of you said earlier, I'm much more likely to remember than if somebody just tells me I'm looking for a job or I'm a graphic designer, help me, you know? The more specific you are, the more memorable you are. Check the job vacancies and assess the skills. So for example, if the jobs you're targeting all require you to know French and you don't know French, then perhaps it's something you should invest in learning. Upskill as required, and of course, apply. So these are the 7 things you can do with this information. So this was part 2 of the presentation. What would you like to do? Now part 3 is where would you like to work? So now that you know the job network that you want to apply in, if you want to work in the LogNet, the logistics network, or the Magnet, the management network, um, And you potentially know the job family, you know the category, you know if you're applying for P or national officer or general level or a consultant. You know the level, which level you are based on the amount of experience you have. You can now filter by where would you like to work? Duty station. So duty station again, depends if you want to work nationally or internationally. And then the department office, some people are saying, I want to work at the World Bank. I want to work at UNICEF. Then you can filter by the department office and then you can search. There's many, many different agencies in the UN. I don't even know how many they are. This is just a diagram of the different agencies. I'll tell you a snippet about the common ones. So UNDP, many of you know UNDP, which focuses on poverty reduction and development. UNICEF, which focuses on children, child protection, education, and emergency relief. WFP, where I work right now, providing food during emergencies. UNHCR for refugees. WHO for health. ILO for labor rights. UNEP for environment. FAO also for agricultural development. UN Women for gender, the person who was saying they wanted to be a gender specialist. So there's a variety of different UN agencies. If you are a very specialized professional, I advise you to read more about the different UN agencies and seeing where your application fits best. The application process. So there's different entry routes in the UN. So we talked about the traditional route, which is the job portals, applying through Inspira, which I showed you earlier right now. Prerequisites and qualifications. You need to have a relevant education. Some jobs will require you to have a master's. Some jobs won't. If you want to aim to work at the international level, then consider getting a master's. There is a master's scholarship that is opening very soon, the Chevening Scholarship, to study in the UK, and the applications are opening on the 25th of August. So if you are targeting an international UN role and you're planning to do your master's, I advise you to start preparing right now to submit an application to the Chevening Scholarship. Languages, for the UN, there's different languages. There is something called working languages and official languages. So the working languages of the UN, or the languages of internal communication, are English and French. And then there's the official languages. There's 6 official languages of the UN. There's English, French, Spanish, um, Arabic, I think Chinese and Russian. These are the 6. Um, there's competitive exams and assessments. Most of the time, if you are shortlisted for a role, you will be required to do a technical test, and it varies greatly from one role to another. It depends on the hiring manager. There's other pathways. Lots of people network so that um, they are seen, they are recognized, they are known by recruiters, especially people in very specialized positions. Internships as well may be an entry point in the system. Other entry points are consultancy. So I'm a consultant right now. You can enter on a short consultancy and it may snowball and grow into a longer consultancy. You may be a volunteer. I'll tell you about volunteering right now. I also was a UN volunteer previously, an online volunteer. And it helped me understand a little bit more about the system. And then continuous learning by taking UN courses. You do not need to be a UN staff member to take UN courses. I'll give you some resources as well right now. Language learning. So I'm not going to talk in detail about these websites. These are just websites, generic websites for language learning, but languages do open a lot of doors at the UN. If you are somebody who's good with languages or who's open to learn new languages, yes, languages can open a lot of doors for you and a lot of international career opportunities. UN volunteering. Another entry pathway into the UN is volunteering. So, one second, let me just connect my charger. Okay, so there's 2 types of volunteers in the UN. There's many different categories, but 2 big types. You can either be an online volunteer, working online on your computer for short-term periods, and that is unpaid. Okay? And then there's on-site volunteers, and these people are paid. So it doesn't mean that the somebody tells you I'm a volunteer, it means they're unpaid. They may be paid and they get paid well, by the way. It's not just they call it a volunteer living allowance, but it's a good payment. So if you want to enter the UN as a volunteer, I will show you how to apply for the volunteering positions right now, but keep it at the back of your mind that the on-site volunteers are paid. Also, something important that you should know is that volunteering positions are on a separate platform. So if you look at the official websites, like the one I showed you earlier, you will not find the volunteering positions. You must go to the volunteering website. So I'm going to click on the link. It's app.unv.org. Am I going too fast, or are you guys okay? Okay. So there is the purple ones, on-site volunteers. Purple, paid, okay? Just so you remember, purple, paid. Blue is unpaid, all right? So if you want to apply to be an online volunteer, these are very short, for example, 3 weeks. Let's say, for example, somebody like me, I'm really interested in decent work and economic growth. This is 3 weeks in Addis Ababa. Maybe I'm interested in doing something like that to learn more about the topic or to engage more in a topic that I'm interested in. Or I just want to even test if I'm interested or not, then I can check the online volunteering positions. So I also have a profile, so it logged me in automatically. But can somebody tell me, for example, um, would they want to be an online volunteer or an on-site volunteer? And just give me a hint of what it is that you want to do, and I can try to search. On-site, okay. Doing what? Okay, so Hagar is saying she wants to be an on-site volunteer doing data or AI. Isar is saying she wants to be an online volunteer for graphic designers. You guys wait 1 second. Let me try both. Okay, so you can filter. There's a little button over here that says filters. You can filter. Do you want to be an online volunteer or an on-site volunteer? I'm going to say first that I want to be an online volunteer. Okay, and Isar is saying she wants to be a designer. So I'm gonna say designer. Let's see if I find something. If you're very, very specific, it really narrows it down. No results found. I'm just gonna apply filters like that. I only filtered by online. So now I found something, social media and graphic design. So when you're very specific, the platform is very literal. It only searches for those words. So you need to be a bit broad. So for example, Isad is saying she wants to do online volunteering, which means she's not going to get paid, and she wants to do design. So she can check this one out, social media and graphic design support. It is for a duration of 12 weeks, and you need to be available for 16 to 20 hours. Um, if you volunteer online, you do get a certificate, you meet other people, and there is still like a supervisor or a mentor guiding you through the activities. If you want to apply, you can look at the different criteria. It tells you, for example, you need to know Canva, Adobe Illustrator, all these things, and then you can click on apply. The application is super short. All you need to do is write a motivation statement, your years of experience, and state your availability, answer a few questions, and that's it. So it's very, very easy to apply for these roles. And by the way, they're still competitive. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get paid, that it's not competitive, because you still do get mentorship and you get a certificate of experience. So you still need to submit a competitive application. Let's say, for example, you want to do on-site work. Um, let's say data. Let me see this one. So Hagar is saying she wants to do on-site work. She wants to do data. There's two roles that are open, one in Pakistan and one in Ukraine. She can check one of these. Let's see the one in Pakistan. So same thing. Oh, you also need to check the category. See, guys, I was going to fall into that trap. So this one is a national volunteer specialist, meaning that you can only apply if you are a national of Pakistan. And this website, they made an update, I think last year or the year before. If I try to apply and my profile is updated and it knows I'm not from Pakistan, it's not going to let me. We have noticed that your application does not meet the following criteria. So they used to get so many applications for candidates who are not eligible that now it automatically tells you, are you sure you're not from this country? So even if you're not reading, it stops you, which is good so that you don't waste your time. This one, this one is also a national UN volunteer expert. So there's a difference between the categories. An expert is somebody who has plus 18 years of experience. A specialist has about 3 years of experience. Um, then there's like community, youth, and volunteers that have fewer years of experience. So you also need to check the category. Don't just apply. And because I was telling you, you do get paid as a UN volunteer, let me just show you how to find out how much you get paid. So if you just click on the UN volunteer website, there's those three horizontal bars. There's an entitlement calculator. So let me try this post, the one that was in Pakistan. So the one that I was just checking. So Pakistan, I don't remember the duty station. Let me just pick uh, I'm trying to find Islamabad, the capital, so that at least C, D, E, F, okay. And the UN volunteering category, let's say, I'm going to say I'm a specialist. I'm an international UN volunteer specialist. And I have no dependents. I don't have children. I'm going to get the results. So it's going to tell you that when you relocate, you're going to get this amount, $4,000, and each month your salary or your living allowance will be this amount, 2,656. You get access to learning platforms, you get annual leave, and you get insurance. So you can find out how much it is that you're paid depending on the category. Consultancies. Um, I'm running out of time, I think, but consultancies, there's different types of consultancies at the UN. Junior consultancies, fewer experience. As you go up, you will need more specialized experience. So a level one consultancy is almost at the level of a P2 or a P3, and then it goes up as you go along. There's different types of consultancies. There are individual consultants like myself, and then there are um, consultancies that were previously called contractors. So somebody who is hired to provide a service, let's say to design a website or to illustrate a book or to even redecorate or do something or do catering for an event. These are all called contractors. So if you want to apply for a technical position, you are going to be looking for an individual consultancy. There's many websites for you to search for these positions. There's this one, untalent.org, and you can see the different technical consultancies. Yes, yes, it is okay to apply for different jobs at the same time. It's not a problem at all. So let's say, for example, there's this one, project manager officer. It's a consultant in the environment space, and it's with UNEP. It's the same process as applying for a job. The only thing is, I'm not signed in. The only thing is, these are short-term positions. And then you can also apply for consultancies from the same platform that I showed you. All you need to do is filter by consultancy. So I'm going to go here to category and say that I'm looking only for consultancies. So it will show me only the consultancies that are open. This one is a national consultancy. In Nairobi, it means you can only apply if you're from Kenya. So pay attention to the category. Don't apply for the wrong category. And then there's procurement opportunities or contractors. These are advertised not on the platform that I showed you. They're advertised on something called the UN Global Market Space. So I'll just show you examples of what they are. Supply of seeds for Jamaica. This is an expression of interest. Delivery, supply and delivery of winter clothes and shoes. So these are services, contractors that are hired to do certain service. You can filter, of course, by languages and so forth. Supply of plastic mats, purchase and delivery of air tickets. So it's different categories, and that's the difference between the procurement opportunities, the contractors, and the individual consultancies. What's the difference? Technical consultancies are specialized experts. They're technical jobs. You can find these on UN job boards or agency websites. They typically provide technical advice, analysis, or support. You can be a national consultant in your own country, or you can be an international consultant. And then there's procurement consultancies or contractors. These are people also hired by the organization on temporary contracts to provide a good or a service or a piece of work. Mostly they're advertised on the UN global market space. You can also find these on the social media platforms. So if you are targeting these platforms in your own country, follow the social media pages. Let's say you have a graphic design company and you're targeting these opportunities, then follow the social media companies in your country. Sorry, the social media UN pages. There's different types. Sometimes they will ask you to provide a proposal, a quotation, an invitation to bid. You can just check those opportunities and apply for them. So the UN Global Market Space is what I showed you. Different organizations publish their consultancies differently. The World Bank, for example, has a platform called STEP, Systematic Tracking of Exchanges and Procurement. You can see the different procurement tenders that are open. UN competencies. So regardless of what it is that you want to do in the UN, there's core competencies that staff have that you can also highlight in your applications. These are very important because you can teach somebody a skill, but it's very hard to teach somebody a behavior. So for example, integrity, professionalism, respect for diversity, creativity, communication, all these things are very, very important. There are core competencies for UN staff, and highlight them in your application if you can. Benefits of working in the UN. For some roles, you may be promoted or your contract may be converted. There are fellowship programs or entry-level jobs where you will get specialized training, you will get mentorship. If you're working in the field, you're going to get the opportunity to solve issues directly. If you have a specific technical experience, you can get the opportunity to develop niche expertise, say in climate change or disaster risk reduction. And then mentoring and coaching, there's many UN organizations that have programs to develop leadership skills. Resources and conclusion. So there's a lot of free resources. Really, guys, I honestly collected these by doing a simple Google search. There's no excuse. Really, there's no excuse. If you want to learn something, um, ask ask the internet and the internet will tell you. So there's a lot of free resources. I showed you the main UN links, but for example, let's say you really, really, really want to apply for a job with UNESCO or with the ILO. So you can go to their specific website if this is where you want to work. And I do that for a lot of agencies, especially agencies whose work I'm interested in, like the ILO or UNICEF or UNDP. I create job alerts because I don't want to miss out. The jobs are open sometimes only for a week. So if you don't create job alerts, you will miss out when a job is advertised. So if you're really, really interested in a certain agency, click on their website and create a job alert. There's just a button that says create job alert. Tell the job alert what it is that you're searching for. I'm searching for a P2. I'm searching for a job as a procurement officer. So the more specific you are, then you will get the job alerts and you can apply as soon as something is open. So you do not have to be a UN staff member to take UN courses. Many of these are open and free to the public. So let's say you're targeting a certain agency. Let's say you're interested in climate change. You can go on the UN climate change website, and there's many, many free courses. These are self-paced courses that you can take on your own and you get a certification. So for example, if you're applying for a job at UNEP or one of the UN climate agencies, you can mention that in your application that you've taken these courses. You can use the specific jargon or the language of the post. So it really sets you apart from the crowd. And there's many, many of these jobs. So for example, the UN Staff College has courses. The United Nations Institute for Training and Research has courses, free and open courses to the public. Again, all you have to do is search for them online. The the people who were saying they want to work in WHO also has many, many free courses. There is no registration, no certification, but it's knowledge for the public. So if you want to learn about something, you can learn about it. Have no idea what this is, Lassa fever. So let's say I want to learn more, I can learn about it, watch the videos, and so forth. A viral hemorrhagic fever, similar to Ebola virus. Okay, so even if you are interested in, let's say, infectious diseases, then you can say, I've taken this course, I've done this. You can show in your interviews that you're interested. It really sets people apart when they go the extra mile. Um, I'm almost done. Free resources in general. So let's say, for example, you're aiming for applying to humanitarian jobs, you have not worked in the field before, you feel you are lacking some skills. Again, there's many, many free resources online to upskill, to take short courses, to learn digital skills, to take humanitarian courses. I've listed some of the really famous ones, but again, you can do your own research. I like Coursera, I like LinkedIn Learning, but that's just my personal sentiment. The hardest part about these platforms is the discipline. If you can have discipline, then you're good. So to conclude, there's many, many different UN opportunities. You need to look for them and apply closely. You need to know where, when, how, why, and how long it takes to apply. You need to make sure that you're applying to align with your passion, your skills, and your purpose. And if you have a gap, then upskill. So now it's your turn. Before you leave, you can decide one action point that you want to do um, so that you can improve your applications, not just to the UN, but I hope you learned something new that you can apply to your other applications as well. So this was today's session. Thank you so much for joining, breaking into the UN. I'm not done, don't drop off. So there's 3 more sessions that I will do. One on the 27th of July. This one is really, really cool. And it's about AI tools for career development. I will be co-presenting with a software developer, an AI developer called Rishan, and it's going to be a really nice session. We prepared some really nice tools. And then there's CV writing for impact on the 10th of August, career decision making, and on the 24th of August. You can take a picture of the QR code and register. I can also put the link in the chat, but I would love to see you all again. I do have a book on Amazon called No More Job Secrets. If you're interested in reading more about working internationally. So yeah, now is the time for me to answer your questions. Please make sure you can raise your hand or put your question in the Q&A, but please make sure that your question ends with a question mark. So don't tell me a long story that I'm gonna forget by the end of your question. So yeah, if you want to get in touch, you can follow me on LinkedIn, or you can also send me an email. If I know the answer, I will answer. And until you type your questions, Inez is asking, is there any PhD scholarship? There's many. You can check findaphd.com. I don't have a PhD, so I'm not very well versed on PhDs, but you can check findaphd.com. I'm sure you will find many. Let me see the questions. I wanted to ask about the current funding challenges many UN agencies are facing. I personally lost a job due to this situation, and I'm trying to better understand how these funding issues are impacting UN positions more broadly. Do you think this will continue to affect staffing and recruitment? And how do you see the future outlook for funding and job opportunities within the UN system? This is kind of a political question, but globally, of course, as you all know, those of you who are following development humanitarian news, you know that With the US aid funding cuts, many humanitarian and international organizations are downsizing. I think I read the statistics, and I'm sorry that you lost your job, Hagar. Many, many people lost their jobs. I believe it was over 100,000 people lost their jobs in this space over the past year. So, is the job market great at the moment? It is not. This is a fact. Um, but it is also an opportunity for all of us to create our own opportunities, to apply for different jobs, to really tap into our skills and see what we can do not only within the UN, but outside of it. If you were previously a UN staff member, it means you have good language skills, you can work with a diverse group of people, you can multitask, you can do many things if you already passed through all these phases of recruitment. I think Hagar, you and I met before, if I'm not mistaken, at the retreat last year, the RAM retreat, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know. But yeah, it's you can brand yourself outside of the UN, and also if you've previously worked in the UN, then there's many opportunities for you outside. Um, you just need to be patient. Fedi, I have been selected in a WHO roster of a specific program a year ago. However, since then, I did not receive any task. Do I have to start any action? No, you do not need to action anything. Rosters often last up to 24 months. So people that are on rosters, it just means that if something opens up, they have a group of people they can quickly deploy. You do not need to take any action at the moment. Um, but it just means you are on a roster for now and you may or may not be contacted. Isari, you can help me as well with an answer for Fedi um, if you have anything to add. Is it possible for people at mid-level jobs to apply for jobs, or the opportunities are limited in this case, especially if there's no previous experience at the international organizations? Yes, you can apply. It doesn't have to be experience at the international organizations unless they explicitly specify that it has to be at the international organizations. But many people who are excellent candidates come from government backgrounds, from the private sector, from local NGOs, national organizations. So these people that are at the grassroots often are excellent project managers and they understand how to deal with communities really well. So no, don't limit yourself and do not self-reject. Are all online positions unpaid? I didn't say that. You're gonna get me in trouble, Mariam. No, online volunteers are unpaid. On-site volunteers are paid. If a position says that it's online, working remotely, an online consultancy, any other online position should be paid. It's just the online volunteers. These are short-term positions, certain number of hours that you're willing to volunteer. Online volunteers are unpaid. On-site volunteers are paid. Online positions, remote-based positions are paid. So the roster, being in the roster does not require any additional candidate. In WIPO applications, what's the difference between training and experience? Um, Not sure. Maybe a training is educational training and experience is work experience from what I understand. So guys, we're at the time. I'm done. I don't have anything further to share. Um, I'm done. I don't have anything further to share. If anyone has any questions, I can stay for a couple more minutes. Otherwise, I will see you all on the 27th of July if you are interested to come to our next session. I hope you learned something new. You will receive a feedback form from Samir. If there's anything also that you would like me to add in the next sessions, you can let me know. But thank you so much for your participation
Thank
today.
you. Thank you so much, Rawan. Yani, that was really very informative and beneficial session. Thank you for your efforts and the practical guide on applying for UN jobs. Thank you all for joining us today in the first session in the Career Boost series. And again, I encourage you all to register if you didn't register for the rest of the session. So please click on the registration link or scan the QR code and register. And if you are not registered for the Global Alumni Network, so I encourage you to register to get more opportunities for your career development. Thank you again. Thank you, Rawan, and see you in the next session. Thank you.